This is the presentation for notification requirements, release and suspected release reporting, and emergency responses. The 10th of 12 training modules in the UST Class A and B Operator Training Program offered by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. I am Suzanne Piccone, the Operator Training Specialist with NHDES. This presentation will review what events require notification to NHDES, like tightness tests that have failed, instances involving leak monitors, new installations or modifications to UST systems that would go through our plan review process, repairs, unusual operating conditions, the proper management of wastes, emergency responses, and contact information. A failed tightness test, indicated by a leak rate of 0.1 gallons per hour or greater, or inconclusive test results, requires the tester to notify NHDES and the owner immediately. The owner or the operator must notify NHDES of any failure within 24 hours of receiving notice of that failure. After NHDES is notified, the owner needs to investigate the cause of the failure within 7 days and determine if the system is leaking, or they could temporarily close the system within 7 days of the initial failure, with the next step being permanent closure, which would be done within the next 30 days. For double-walled USTs, where a second tightness test confirms a failure of the outer wall, then the double-walled space would not be containing a leak as it should. You must empty the tank within 24 hours and then either repair the tank or go through permanent closure. After any failed tightness test, you must submit a report to NHDES that describes the work that was performed, the repairs that were made, and any actions taken in response to the failure. Like most test results and reports, you'd submit this report within 30 days. For monitoring devices that will be turned off for a period of 2 hours or more, you need to notify DES ahead of time of the project. The plan review process for new installations or substantial modifications starts 90 days before construction. You must submit plans that have been prepared by a New Hampshire professional engineer, or PE, the common types being civil or mechanical engineers, along with the application for construction and the fee. Your approval to conduct the work would remain valid for a year, so you do not have to go into construction right away if you need more time to line up all the aspects involved. Upon construction completion, NHDES must be notified within 5 business days of backfilling. This allows time for NHDES inspectors to visit the site and approve the project. If anything needs to be fixed, then you have 30 days to correct and submit as-built plans. Then notify NHDES to arrange a follow-up inspection. Repairs to the piping system or to containment sumps, where you are restoring it to its original design function, means you're not going through the plan review process, but there's still information prior to the repair that you must submit to NHDES. That information must include the procedure for the repair, the name and the phone number of the certified installer, manufacturer's written approval, and passing tightness test results. Unusual operating conditions are situations where you must notify NHDES unless if within 24 hours you have determined the cause of the condition is corrected, or that the potential for a release is removed by taking the equipment out of service, and that you've determined if there was a leak. There are several instances which could qualify as an unusual operating condition, so here are a few instances described in the rules. If you smell vapors or see equipment deteriorating, if there's erratic behavior of the vapor recovery, dispenser, or overfill equipment, if you see a bent vent stack, or evidence that your system is not liquid or vapor tight, or if there are indications of leaks, like from the leak monitor. What would you do if you had indications that there was liquid in your piping containment sump? This applies to the unusual operating condition that describes water or regulated substance in the interstitial space of a secondarily contained system that might indicate a problem with system tightness. Here's a photo of an unusual operating condition described in the rules as visual evidence of system component deterioration. The piping entry boot is cracked in several locations. In this instance, we were not notified. The release that occurred due to the equipment deterioration has cost over $1.25 million to remediate. Other sections of NHDES regulate wastes like petroleum and water mixtures. The Hazardous Waste Remediation Bureau instructs their operators to handle these mixtures by storing them in a container which is clearly labeled on secondary containment and protected from the elements. The helpline shown below will bring you to the folks in the hazardous waste section who can assist you in making the waste determination and help you make a storage or disposal plan that fits your needs. This is an example of good storage. The containers are labeled, they are on secondary containment, and they are protected from the elements. These containers will not protect the contents from getting out or water getting in, and they aren't on secondary containment or labeled. These are better containers. At least they are protected and contained. This container on the right is a container that's quite popular now. They are good secondary containment and can fit an entire 55-gallon drum. Because some liquids can be reused as fuel, it is best that you store solids separate from fuel-water mixtures, like used filters, rags, or speedy dry. Filters can be used for their metal once they are dry. Rags, if used on heating oil, are exempt from waste rules if they are not saturated, and speedy dry can be reused before it is saturated, before it is considered for disposal. If the material is saturated, it cannot go into the landfills because it is treated as a hazard, because it has the potential of flammability and reactivity. Similar to liquids, store these materials in a container that's labeled and protected. Once that container gets full, have it removed by an appropriate disposal company. The Has Waste section has vendor listings online, and when in doubt, contact the helpline. Rule ENV-OR 600 series, more specifically 604.6, refers to anyone who notices a release to the environment. The responsible party or other person who becomes aware of an oil discharge shall notify the department immediately after obtaining knowledge that a discharge meeting one or more of the following criteria has occurred. Notify NHDES if there is a discharge of 25 gallons or more. What does a spill of 25 gallons look like? If a person is 6 foot tall, they'd be looking at a puddle that is 1/8 of an inch deep and 20 feet across. Please notify immediately if it cannot be contained. Any amount of product entering a storm drain or going through cracks in the pavement must be reported immediately because the discharge is not cleaned up immediately or disposed of. Unless the discharge is cleaned up immediately and properly disposed of, it requires immediate notification to NHDES. This applies to discharges less than 25 gallons of oil to land. That includes overfills, releases, spills, and forgotten speedy dry. When using speedy dry, try to make it a habit not to leave the area until it can be picked up. It only takes about 20 minutes for it to absorb the liquid, so if you do not have time to wait, consider protecting the area with cones or caution tape. When left unaddressed, the contamination can spread by tires of through traffic, wind, or rain. Notify immediately if there's been an impact to groundwater or surface waters. This also applies if contamination is detected in soil or groundwater by means of either observing it directly or in the results of laboratory samples taken in the closure process, for example, then you must notify DES immediately. Notify immediately if vapors pose an immediate threat to human health. Vapor intrusion is when vapors from a release to the environment travels through the ground and is detected at nearby structures like basements and foundations of corporate buildings. Some symptoms would be people inhibiting nausea, dizziness, and headaches. This is the contact information for NHDES. Since we operate during regular business hours, if an emergency happens outside of these times, contact the New Hampshire Department of Safety. The New Hampshire State Police Dispatch will reach out to our emergency responders, whoever is on call at that time. We recommend that you put this information on the Spill Response Guidelines, the document which is required for operator training. In summary, you need to remember that for failed tightness tests and unusual operating conditions, DES needs to be notified within 24 hours. Notify us before turning off the leak monitor for more than 2 hours. New installations or upgrades starts 90 days before construction with the application for the plan review process that includes plans approved by a New Hampshire PE. Repairs, you do notify us prior to, but there is minimal reporting involved. Properly manage any wastes, both liquids and solids, and for any spills or leaks that we discussed, you have to notify us immediately.